We're close. Oh, there he is. Coming up.
Okay, now where do I put the camera thing?
We're doing it live, everybody.
Okay, start video. There we go.
So good to see you, Stefan. How have you been?
Rich. Well, not good, because the world's going to hell. You know, it's everything I've known, everything I've believed in it's all pretty much gone now. But aside from that black pill, what I'd like to talk about is solutions. You know, I get a little bit burned out by being on YouTube and BitChute and all the other alternative sites, because I keep hearing about everything that's wrong with the world. And certainly there's a lot wrong with the world. Okay, great. What do we do about it? How do we change it? How do we improve it? How do we get out of this? I would suggest that the traditional methods don't work. For example, voting. let's put aside that dog and pony show.
You don't think we could just vote harder, Stefan? Maybe we're not pushing the buttons hard enough?
I think we should vote many times, 2 or 3 times every time you go to the poll. Take a playbook from the Democrats. Every time you go to the poll, registered 5, 10, 100 votes, 1,000 votes. Anyways, we know that voting doesn't work. I don't think voting ever worked. I don't know. When I go back through history, and as you know, I'm something of an amateur historian, vote fraud goes all the way back to the 1780s, just look at New York and Tammany Hall in the 1880s with, they had guys that they would have thugs out in front of polling booths, and if you didn't vote the right way, they would beat you to within an inch of your life. And if you did vote the right way, well, you got a beer, so vote fraud's been going on, and this last election, please, I used to work as a scrutineer, meaning that I was a volunteer for the political party that I was representing at the time at a national election. I was representing the NDP, which is the far left party, but I was only like 18, so you can forgive me. But the standards, there had to be one person from every party standing behind the people that counted the ballots. And so they would be at a table, the boxes would come in, they would hand out the ballots, and there were 3 boxes, one for each political party. And, they would open up, it was paper ballot, right? We had to mark an X on the box, open it up, oh, this is for the Liberals, and then we'd all look at it and make sure it was for the Liberals. And then to see what they did there in the last election, where they threw out the observers. I mean, come on. That's a guarantee that something's fishy. And then they boarded up the windows with cardboard. So anyways, look, voting.
They don't do it like that in Canada? It's not how you guys run things? Are you saying there's something wrong with what's going on down here?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong. Now, of course, I don't know. I haven't voted since that day, okay? That was 40 years ago. So, no, I haven't voted since then, and I don't vote. I never vote. I don't care. I don't believe in it. I think it's a waste of my goddamn time. And so anyways, look, we keep hoping, oh, well, then Trump will come back in 2024, and then everything will be wonderful again. Come on, we already had Trump. Did everything suddenly become wonderful? Was the swamp cleaned out? Was the wall built? Did we stop making payments to Israel? Come on, he didn't do a goddamn thing. So, no, there is no hero to save us. Then the other thing is, well, let's protest. Okay, listen, I'm all in favor of people protesting. But it doesn't do any good. The people that run this world would just laugh and snicker at, 10 million people marching down the street. They don't give a damn about that. What you think the banking families, the big ruling elites are going to go, oh my God, there's protesters. Let's give them back their money. Let's give them back their freedom so they won't be walking down the street, which is so upsetting to us psychopathic banker elites that we can't take it. No, come on, protesting doesn't work. What else? What else we got? Writing letters to your congressman. Knock yourself. Write 100 letters. Go ahead. Spend all day long writing letters to your congressman. I'm sure he'll listen to you. So what are the solutions, guys? What are the solutions? Well, armed conflict? Well, yeah, they would like that. They would love it if everybody took their AR-15s and marched on Washington. Man, what a bloodbath that would be. And it would be the perfect excuse to implement martial law, and I mean hardcore martial law. The military going around door to door, hauling people out of their homes and shooting them in the streets, a la Gray State. Yeah, that's what they want. So what is the solution, folks? Well, as a long-term survivalist and as a historian, I went through history. What was the solution? What did people in the past do? How did we survive without government? How did we do that? Because let's face it, our society is going down. We are at the, according to the theory of historical cycles, and it's, I wrote an article for the Trends Journal on historical cycles, and it's not just me. There were a lot of historians, most recently Strauss and Howe with their book called The Fourth Turning, which also says that, civilization's going down. We're going down. Now, what happens when the civilization collapses? Well, no hospitals, no grocery stores, no police departments, no electricity, no gas, no internet, no telephone, no cell phone, no Netflix. All of that gone. How long it'll be gone for, I don't know. A couple of months, a couple of years? It doesn't matter, because if it's gone a couple of months only, let's say it just collapses for a couple of months, 80% of the population will be dead. Because what are they going to do? They'll have no food, they'll starve to death, they'll panic, they'll run around in the streets. Sure, there'll be a couple of weeks of looting and rioting, and then once the grocery stores have been looted, now what? Look, people can survive a month. Those of us, like I do periodic fasting, so I'm not afraid to miss a meal. But most people, if they're a day without food, they think they're dying, right? 2-3 days without food, they are convinced they're dying, and they will panic, and they will become psychotic, and they'll be going around, and just like we're seeing in Venezuela, they're going to be eating your dogs and your cats. Never mind Fauci and his animal experiments. Every good liberal in the United States will be turning a hungry eye on their kitty cat. So what do we do? How do we survive this, Richard? It's going to be bad. And even if it's not bad, let's say I'm wrong. Let's say all the historians and all the historical, let's say I'm wrong. But just look at what's happening right now. First of all, we have runaway inflation. Oh, it's only 5%. My butt, it's 5%. It goes up 10% every month. I can tell because when I go to the grocery store, I get, 10% less this week than I did last week for the same money. Don't tell me 5%. It's 10% a week, if not, or a month, if not a week. So people are going to have a hard time feeding their families. So we can talk about this all day long. Oh, it's terrible, the inflation and the supply chain. That's another favorite boogeyman right now, too. We're collapsing the supply chain. Well, yeah, guess what? Since you moved all of manufacturing over to China, which I saw 20 years ago when I was in China, and I remember thinking, what the F are they doing? Why are they moving all their technology over to China? And yeah, China steals all our technology, but look, we gave it to them. We gave it to them. What we didn't give to them, they stole, sure, but we gave it to them. So supply chain. So now, how are you going to feed your family? Well, let's bitch about it all day long. That will feed your family. No, here's the solution to feeding your family, and that is, and it's going to be a repeating pattern with what I'm talking about, is we have to work together and create communities. So How do you feed your family? Number one, simplest thing, form a buying group. You and 5 families, you pool your money and you just get a Costco membership and you go and you buy in bulk, right? So, and then you distribute the stuff when you come back. Now, if you go and buy in bulk, and again, it's the simplest thing. You don't need contracts or incorporations or anything like that. All you need to do is go to 5 of your neighbors, Bill, Bob, June, Harriet. Listen, I'm going to Costco on Saturday. Pitch in $200. Tell me what you want. You know, we'll buy all the toilet paper, you know, and we'll buy all the. But look, you're going to get, you know, 10, 15, 20% discount if you do it that way. So already, it's going to make it easier to put food on your table. Okay, what else can we do? A food co-op. Now, a food co-op is a little bit more tricky. You need to incorporate, and you need to run it a little bit like a business. And, you know, I was talking about this the other day. Yes, part of the solution, we have to form communities, but you also have to run these communities like a business. It can't be just, oh, well, we'll chat on Zoom and we'll talk about things and then, you know, maybe we'll think about what to. No, it's got to be a business. You have to have a mission statement. You have to incorporate. You have to file papers with the government. But look, it's not always a bad thing because when you file those papers, then, you know, maybe you get a 501c3 status. You don't have to pay taxes. You get to open bank accounts so that when people do put in their money, that it's all visible. It's not like, hey guys, you know, everybody give me $500 and I'll look after you. No. You know, and you never know what happened to the $500, like most charities today. So a buying co-op is basically a buying group. It's just a little bit more elaborate. And what you do is you source the materials from producers and wholesalers. So now instead of 10, 15% discount, you're getting 25, 30, maybe up to 50% discount. And what you do is you make a trip up to the country. You go to Farmer McDonald's farm, old McDonald's farm, and you buy up all his corn and his tomatoes and his squash and cucumbers and potatoes, and you know, you bring back, you know, 200 pounds of produce, and now you give it to the people that are in the co-op. They've paid for it, so they get all this produce for free, not for free, but for a huge discount. Again, trying to address the problem of supply chain and hyperinflation. Okay, maybe Farmer Brown wants a little bit more money than other people, but not as much as Walmart and Costco and all that's going to want, right? So you still get your discount. All right, what else can we do? Well, a grow co-op, a garden co-op. Now you're growing your own food. This works great, you know, during growing season. Here in Canada, you've got about 2 weeks to grow a tomato, but, you know, in the rest of the world, you can do that too. And what you do, the community comes together and you set aside a space. Now, it could be somebody's backyard. Let's say Richard's got a big backyard and he says, sure, use it as a garden. And now everybody in the neighborhood comes there. They look after the plants. They grow it. They tend to the plants. And at the end of the season, you've got a ton of food. And that food is free. It is free. You've only put in the labor and you've volunteered your time to work together to put into labor. And then the food becomes free. So even without thinking about the absolute end of civilization, we're already benefiting and we're addressing problems that are pressing now. These are problems that we face now. How to feed the family, how to have enough money. You know, there's the saying, you can either eat or you can heat your home. This is where we are. What are we going to do? Well, okay. Let's go to heat the home then. What can we do to reduce the costs of heating? There are buying groups and co-ops, and I've got case studies in the book that are run in England where everybody in a small town that requires heating oil to heat their homes, what they do is, again, it's a buying group. It's a co-op. They approach the supplier and they say, we'll take an entire truck tanker full of heating oil. We'll buy it. they'll get about 25% discount, and so they'll buy that whole tanker, and that tanker will go up and down the street and fill everybody's heating oil tanks. And again, we've reduced the costs by buying in bulk, because as you know, Richard, you're a businessman. When you have money to spend, like if I go to the grocery store and say, listen, guys, I got $100. What kind of a discount can you give me? They're going to laugh at me, right? But if I go to the grocery store and I say, listen, I got $1,000 to spend. Can you give me 10% off? Or should I go to the grocer down the street? I guarantee you I get the 10% off. But it only works when you have the economy of scale, right? When you have enough money to spend that it makes it worth their while to deal with you and give you a discount. I learned that in Morocco. I haggle for everything, right? How many dinar for this? Oh, 200 dinar. I'll give you 5. Okay, 150 dinar. You got to haggle that. There's cultures that used to do that. But what can you lose? I always tell people, listen, I'm going to pay you cash. I don't need a receipt. Give me 20% off. Give me 10% off, right? Under the table, you're not paying tax on income, so you can afford to give me a discount because I don't need a receipt. Yeah, it's a little bit, it's illegal, of course, yes. But how many small businessmen do you think take me up on it? I'd say about 50%. And the rest will just say no. Okay, no. Fine, I'm going to pay full price today. I don't like to do that. So again, heating and eating, we can at least address those problems by forming communities, working together, cooperating, uniting. All right, let's go on to another area that's of a grave concern today, and that is medical care. Personally, I would not go to a hospital. I haven't been to a doctor in 40 years. Not a checkup, didn't get my blood tested. I haven't been to a doctor in 40 years. I haven't been sick in 40 years. And it's not because I'm a health nut. I abuse my body in many different ways. It's just that I already know I don't need the doctor. I don't feel sick. Why would I go? If I went to a doctor today, I guarantee you they're going to tell me I'm pre-diabetic and low blood pressure and high cholesterol. I already know they're going to say that because those are the pharmaceuticals they want to prescribe to me. They're not diagnosing me. They're selling me. They're analyzing me as a sales vehicle for their pharmacy. So why would I go to them? But we still need health care. And health care is being destroyed all over the world. I know how terrible it is there in the United States. And here in Canada, everybody says, oh, well, you got socialized medicine. Yeah, okay, socialized medicine. Takes you 2 years to get an appointment with a doctor. Okay, and then go to the emergency room if you feel like you got COVID or something like that. And then you wait for 8 hours behind 200 Somalian immigrants that are in line ahead of you. I mean, they got their sleeping bags out and everything, before you can see an emergency room doctor, if you can find one. And then what are they going to do? They're going to insist you take the vaccine, or if you're really bad, they're going to put you on a ventilator, and then they'll kill you. So I wouldn't go to, I know it sounds extreme, but I have friends in the medical profession, and they will back me up. So what do? Well, we need to do what our great-grandparents did. Long before public health in Canada and England, there were friendly societies and mutual aid societies and fraternal societies. These went under, kind of bizarre names like the Elks Lodge or the Moose Lodge or the Odd Fellows or the Seven Knights of Pythias. They were, a little bit Masonic. Most of them had kind of a Masonic feel to them, but they weren't Masons. They just adopted the same sort of format as Masons because, hey, it's a successful model to use. And I recommend that we do the same thing. But anyways, it would pay the equivalent of 1 day's wages per month. So what do we make now? $200 a month, the average, $200 a day, the average person, right? No, probably less than that, right? So you pay $200 a month, and you have your medical care taken care of, you have unemployment insurance, you have welfare, you have retirement, and you have the seniors assisted residences taken care of, all for that $200 a month. Why? Because that money was collected by people within the community, and it was spent only on what that community needed. So now we give $200, just as an example, to the government for our health care, for our unemployment insurance, for the food stamps, and on and on and on and on. Out of that $200, $195 is siphoned away through corruption. It's given to their cronies. I've seen it. I know what they do. Oh, we're going to have to improve job training for people. Okay, how many billions do you need? Oh, we're just going to get a grant from the government for $2-3 billion. Great. Now, who gets the job of training all these people? Well, my wife does. She's going to take that $5 billion and she'll hire a couple of people for $10 an hour to run a course, and the other, $4.999 billion goes into her pocket. That's how government works. That's why it's never efficient to allow government to do anything. But you take care of that money yourself, and you don't spend it on $2 million CEO salaries. You don't spend it on your wife and your cousin and your brother-in-law and your 5 kids. You spend it on what it's needed for. And these old societies, like I said, the Elks Lodge and the Moose Lodge, they were so successful in providing services for their membership that they had extra money. They had extra money. Not only did you get all your medical care taken care of, and your unemployment and emergency money, like if you had a sudden emergency, a financial crisis, and you needed to borrow $1,000, they were the same people that would lend you the $1,000. So they acted as medical insurance and as a bank and as a social club. So they were so successful that they ended up building initially their own clinics, and then they built their own hospitals. I mean, there's places in Georgia. There's a video that's on the course. The experts speak about the benefits of forming communities. They built, hospitals and retirement homes, and then they still had so much money left over that they bought property, and they turned that property out in the country, and they turned it into campgrounds and picnic grounds, and they had hot dog stands and band stands and stages, and they would have dances and concerts. I mean, it was just unbelievable what they were able to do with that $200 a month. So we can do the same thing. We can form our own communities to fund our own medical system. Now, I've been talking to quite a few people about this, and they're all on board. They think it's a great idea, and a couple of them are members of Autonomy, and people you might know, like Mike Pendergast, who's a Chinese medical doctor, or he's studying Chinese medicine. And, of course, I think you're going to have him on. You've probably already had him on, Dr. Andrew Kaufman. I was speaking to him just 2 days ago, and we were talking about building medical communities. So now let's take the easiest form of a medical community, and that is, again, a co-op, but it's a medical insurance co-op. So again, you get 20, 30, 50 people. You pool your money. You buy your own medical insurance at a group discount. Never mind Obamacare and $2,000 a month. You can buy your own medical insurance for a few $100. But that's not a long-term solution. That's, for this year, this month, cheap health insurance certainly would be a big benefit right now. But we're assuming that the civilization is going to collapse completely. So again, we can take that money, and we start off really simple. We hire a doctor, and there's going to be a lot of doctors available because they're all quitting because of the mandatory vaccine. And I know, because I speak to my own doctor friends, and I followed Dr. Coleman there in England. He describes how, they have just destroyed the NHS there, the National Health Service in England, and they've laid off all these doctors that are semi-retired, and the doctors are saying, well, if you're overwhelmed because of the COVID, then we're willing to come back to work. And the NHS said, no, we don't need you. So there are tens of thousands of doctors unemployed, but good doctors that have a lot of experience. Yeah, I'd rather go to a doctor that's 75, that's got 40 years experience under his belt. So we can go to them and we can hire them. Very simple. Now you're thinking, oh, well, we need blood tests and x-rays and MRIs and all that. Well, look, that's all subcontracted out anyways, right? It's not that if I go to a doctor and he really thinks I need a chest x-ray, he'll just book me an appointment at an x-ray clinic. And then we have to pay for that. But it's going to be a lot less money than paying to go to a hospital. A lot less money because we're subcontracting that out. So we can build our own medical communities. We pool our money, and it's not going to take a lot of money. $50 a month, $100 a month. What do you pay now for health insurance? $3,000 a month? Are some of the estimates I've heard when I was researching this. So, a couple $100 a month. And now you've got, we hire the doctor, one or two doctors. Maybe we'll hire a couple of nurses, and then we'll rent a space. We rent an office space or a warehouse space, and we could put some equipment in there. Ultrasound equipment, you can buy one for $200. And if you need blood tests, you subcontract that out to the labs that do that. And then we have a doctor come in there, let's say, every Saturday and Wednesday. And anybody in your community that's feeling sick, that's when you go, Wednesday and Saturday. Or we can go back to when I was a kid, and I remember this really happened, that if you got sick, the doctor would come to your house. He would come to your house. But we're paying him anyways. Now, that's what the old friendly societies did. They hired their own doctors, and they put them on a regular monthly income. Let's say it's $10,000 a month, whether or not they work or not. And their sole responsibility was to look after the members of the community. And they would make house calls. And so but here's the other interesting thing about that is, because he makes the same money whether he works 10 hours a week or 60 hours a week, whether he sees 3 patients or 200 patients, it's the same money for him. The incentive for that doctor is to keep his patients healthy. Now, you go to the hospital or you go to the medical clinic, the incentive there's no money in keeping you healthy. There's money in keeping you sick and prescribing you lots of drugs that the doctor gets a big fat kickback from. So who would you rather go to? Somebody who's incentivized to make sure you're healthy, and God forbid, the word that you never hear in medicine these days is cured. Or do you want to go to the guy whose incentive is the sicker you are, the more money they make? And that's why the American Medical Association was a key proponent in destroying all these old friendly societies. They didn't like that. They weren't making money. So they went in there and they told all these doctors, we're going to pull your medical license if you continue to work for the Moose Lodge. What are they doing now? We're going to pull your license if you don't inject an experimental vaccine into people that that will most likely kill them. So again, these are the problems we're seeing now, and we can address them directly. This is actionable. We can do this. Our grandparents did this. Our great-grandparents did this. They weren't all business geniuses or social justice warriors. They just, it's spread by word of mouth. Where are you getting your insurance from? Well, I'm a member of the Moose Lodge. Oh, really? And how does that work? Well, it works like this. Can you get me in? Well, sure, let's make an application. And that's how it worked for them. You know, it wasn't a big deal. But you know what? Nowadays, it's a big deal because people have no ability to work together. That's another story. All right, let's take another problem. And this is, again, a really important problem, and especially when you see what's going on. And that is education. I personally believe that public education is child abuse. That you would send your kid to a government-run indoctrination center for 12 years. 12 years they're there. And they come out, they're barely qualified to flip hamburgers at McDonald's. I mean, I think you need a college degree to be a barista, for crying out loud. 12 years of their lives. And listen, I know the human mind, and I know children. Children's minds are a sponge. If I sent a kid for 12 years to a school, I would expect them to come out of it with at least 3 advanced degrees: a medical degree, a degree in mathematics, a degree in physics. That is easy to do. The kids learn. I mean, okay, not all of them are brilliant or whatever, but you know, if you give them the right kind of information and the right education and the right environment, they would come out of school with critical thinking abilities, amazing skills. You know, they'd be a doctor, but also they could put together a car engine. You know, why can't you teach them that? Of course you can teach them that. But instead, what are they learning now? Well, your daughter's going to come home with a double mastectomy, and your son's going to come home wearing a skirt, and their homework assignment is to read a book on gay pedophile sex. You've seen this, right? You've seen these videos now. And then they show the pictures of the cartoon illustrations. I made a joke years ago because I came with a book on called Little Warriors, and it was a training program for parents to teach their children how to prevent stranger abduction, but not just stranger abduction, but grooming and pedophilia. And it was a very non-invasive kind of course, non-violent. It was role-playing. Simply what I did was, this is the kind of behavior predators exhibit, and I want to teach the kids to recognize that behavior. I don't have to tell them about sex or pedophilia or anything. They don't need to know that. They just need to know that when an adult comes up to them and says, "Hey, Johnny, listen, I'm going to get you a chocolate bar. I'm going to get you that video game that you've always wanted, but we got to keep that a secret between you and me." Now, that's the key right there. Keeping the secret. So I train the kids. Anytime an adult wants you to keep a secret from your parents, you tell your parents. That's the first thing you do. This way, we prevent the grooming. Anyways, I have the whole course. I had videos. I shopped a script around Hollywood for a year. I had agents representing me. Nobody was interested in this. Nobody was interested. I illustrated all the books myself. I'm an artist, as you know. Nobody's interested. I hardly sold any books. I marketed it to after-school programs, to Boy Scouts. Nobody's interested. And I remember thinking back then, I thought, and I told this to my wife, I said, now, if I were to illustrate a book for kids, how little Johnny learned to suck a dick, with graphic illustrations, and how wonderful it is to suck a dick, I bet you I would sell millions of dollars worth of that book. And look at what happened. Now, 10 years from that time, 10 years later, there's the book, Little Johnny Sucking the Dick. Oh, my God. I don't know what to say, guys. You know, I try to do good, but it's very hard to do good in this world. But anyways, you got to get your kids out of school. It's insanity. So what's the solution? Well, send them to Montessori. Yeah, Montessori is great. Everybody loves Montessori. But how did Montessori start out? They started out as a co-op, as a homeschooling program. Duh. You know, when responsible teachers and parents take education into their own hands, and that's what they want their kids to learn, now you have a wonderful program. Another one I can think of is the forest schools in Germany, where kindergarten aged children spend the entire school day in the forest, outdoors, in nature, climbing trees, exploring, wading in the rivers. And what a wonderful experience that is. But again, that's because parents took that into their own hands. So the solution to our education system is homeschooling. Now, I know the argument against it is we don't have time for that, you know. We both work all day. And because, again, that's part of the big programming that we've been going through. Of course, that was the purpose of feminism, to get women believing that spending their life in a cubicle is far more noble than spending their life at home. And now we get to tax two people at the same time. But we have to work together. Again, you form a community, a homeschooling co-op. So you get 5 families, 10 families. And again, you kick in some money, not as much as Montessori. You kick in some money, and you can hire your own teacher. Now you can set up space. You can get free space from the church. Most of these big churches, they all have a big basement there where they have dinners and dances and Sunday school classes. And so you get a space from the church. You know, 3 days a week we go to the church. 1 day a week we go to the library. And 1 day a week or 2 days a week we go over to one of the neighbors' houses, and the class is taught there. And we hire a teacher to teach 3 days a week. And then the mothers volunteer, and the fathers can volunteer their time to teach the kids the other 2 times a week. Now, we've got a full education program, and every study has shown that hands down, homeschooled children are not only smarter and have more skills, but curiously, they're also more empathetic. They're more caring. They're more loving, because that stuff is sucked out of you in public school, for crying out loud, you know, sitting there at that desk. So you create better human beings. And again, we just got to work together, pool our money, and cooperate. So again, the answer to all of these problems is community. And anyways, that's my big lecture.
Well, I think we would have inherited a lot more of these situations still in place, because what you're saying is my great-grandparents and grandparents utilized these types of structures and social groups and social organizations, and they had a lot of fun. And that was fine during the time of radio up until even. But once TV came in, you know, you see the waning of these social clubs and the rise of the number of hours people feel that they are now engaged with the telescreen, like it's Bradbury's 451. And they're having conversations, and they think the people are real. And that's more important than the actual people who they educate their kids with, they grow their food with, they protect themselves from fire and theft and, you know, disease with. These sort of things coming together, I think it's natural that we kind of went through this chaotic process in the last 60 years where people have become hugely unself-reliant. Like at the last Great Depression, 90% of people were rural, 10% or urban, and now it's flip-flopped. And the people who are urban, they have no idea where their food comes from or how to get it, and they don't know how to keep calm, cool, collected, and communicate their needs and meet their needs peacefully with other people either. And that's what you're talking about at the beginning. So it is one hand, there's a spectrum. At the very least, we're going to get supply chain disruptions, and if they don't maintain it, you could have a total collapse of society. You could also have an extra governmental thing like a solar flare, take out the electrical grid, just as easy as Klaus Schwab can do it with cyber polygon. Hacking exercises take away electricity. So just having a good plan in place, knowing how to grow a little food, and then getting other people around you to maybe do that. And then if you did it in a plot together, there's like, economies of scale, there's labor, diversification, there's co-ownership. And, you know, if as long as you have somebody that can say, look, those 5 families won't get enough food from that, you know, third of a quarter acre garden, but if you get an acre garden, those 5 families would all have enough. And, you know, my grandparents, you know, they, on both sides, they hunted, they fished, they didn't do trapping. I don't have any trapping in my family, but they all gardened and canned and, jarred the food and had, pantries of, you know, stocked up food that they created on their own. And I still have a couple friends today who like make cider and pickles and moonshine and things like that. So there is like that we have the embers to restart this fire. It was a fire kindling with freedom and mutual aid and all these other dynamics that you've talked about, but we still have like more work to do. So that's why I got so excited when you were telling me you were about to kind of, you're kind of wading into starting the new book. And I was like, where is it going to go? How are you going to finish it? How are you going to sell it? How are you going to market it? And then once you told me what it was about, I was like, people need to know this now, and they're not going to read your book primarily. But if you started dripping this out as far as education in the course and show people, here's how to create mutual aid society. Here's how to create a private group. Here's when and where you'd want to create this type of nonprofit. Here's how to do the mechanics of these. And then the social inner workings, like the charters and the covenants and the agreements and how people can work together without tearing themselves apart. Can you talk a little bit about how you see that as like the ticking time bomb in all these groups where people, well-intentioned, even sometimes well-prepared and funded, they try to create a community, but they don't see these other pitfalls, and you seem to have demarcated them so clearly in your map. Let the audience know, like, if they wanted to do this, let's say they take that step, what kind of obstacles do they run into? And then how have you leveraged your experience to, like, pave that way for them?
Well, the first obstacle is that people don't know how to organize. This is done on purpose. We're not taught this stuff in school or anything like that. And I was on an interview the other day, and I was saying, because I've spoken to quite a few people that are part of, like freedom cells and autonomy cells. And, like we've heard this solution already a few times, right? I'm not the only one that's coming up with it. A lot of people say, I mean, most of the truth speakers I hear now will inevitably mention, well, we got to work together and we got to unite. And okay, yeah, we do. But how? How do we do that? Well, we're not given the tools to do that. And I've spoken to people and I said, so did you go to the freedom side? I'm just using that because I can't think of the other names, but it's not necessarily freedom cells themselves, but it's something like that, did you go to a meeting? Yeah. So what happened there? Well, everybody started bickering and fighting, and then everything collapsed. Well, but in my book, one of the things, there's 3 pages, 4 pages. It's called meeting protocols, because people don't know how to be polite and interact with each other in a non-violent, non-confrontational, non-aggressive way. Because at the minute, listen, the communist brainwashing is so prevalent that even people that think they're conservatives, you're still communists in your mind because it's sunk in there. So I'll tell you what the communist brainwashing is. If you disagree with me, you're an idiot. You're so stupid. How can you disagree with me? That's communism, okay? Because that's the state. That's
not traditionally how Americans retorted in such cases. They would have debates, and there would be research, and there would be public scrutiny, and there would be arguments in the newspaper on either side. It was like free speech par excellence back then.
Yeah, there was dialogue between you and the people. Listen, if you disagree with me, I don't mind. I mean, what? I'm married to my ideas. I'm God. Everything I say is the word of God. No, if you think there's something wrong in my philosophy, by all means, let's bring it up, and then let's find a solution to it. If I'm wrong, then let's think of a way of improving it. What's wrong with that? But again, the communism, it's
too much work. It's too much resistance. They'd rather just cut to the chase and break the rules.
Exactly. Which is the totalitarian mindset. It's like Colin Wilson said, it's a mind parasite. And, we've talked about mass psychosis. It's mass psychosis, and we don't even know we have it because we get offended. He didn't agree with me. Well, then, he's an idiot. Look, this is not how we can cooperate. So I wrote meeting protocols. Rule number 1. You treat everybody with respect. There is no swearing. There is no name calling. And there's no yelling. You don't need to yell at these meetings. I'm yelling now, eh?
But you made it funny. That's why it works.
You don't. I hope. I'm trying, Richard. You don't need to yell. And I'll tell you what happens is the first time somebody calls you an asshole because you don't agree with them, you will never listen to that guy again. So forget about working together. Everybody's calling each other an asshole. that whole community is destroyed. So those are just one of the many pitfalls. The other thing that I find is that I liken it to running a hot dog stand. Now, Richard, you'll agree with me on this. I've written maybe 12 business proposals. And in order to apply for a grant about 6 years ago, I had to go and take another one of these training courses run by the government, where again they taught me how to write a business proposal, but I already know how to do that. So I aced the course. The instructor was a little bit nervous around me. But I'll give you an example. So to run a hot dog stand, first of all, it costs you $50,000. You got to buy the stand. You got to buy the license. You got to rent the location. You have to have insurance. You have to have permits. And then you have to have the actual hot dog stand. I didn't even know this. They're expensive. It's 50 grand. Then you have to write a business plan, a proposal, break-even analysis, cash flow analysis. And then are you going to hire somebody? Well, now you got to have, unemployment insurance and health insurance and insurance on them. $50,000. You got to write a proposal and you got to file a shitload of papers with the government just to run a hot dog stand. Now, to form our own parallel society, you got to do at least that. I mean, people think they can do this without putting in the kind of effort and thinking that it would take to run a hot dog stand. We have to raise money. We have to write a business proposal. We have to file papers with the government. We have to have, bylaws and meeting protocols, and we have to make sure everybody's insured. You got to have insurance for this stuff. You can't do anything without insurance in this country. Here in Canada, you got to go take a pee, and then it'll say, "Can we see your insurance for your pee?" I mean, if you can't do that, you can't build a community. It takes a lot of work. Now, not that much work. That's the point of the book. The point of the course is to, listen, I'm going to tell you how to do it, avoid all these pitfalls. But, and I'm even going to give you templates and samples of how to do it. And so I'm trying everything I can because I want this to succeed, Richard. I want people, because, listen, we got to beat these bastards, and the only way to beat them is to take power away from them and give it back to us. And the way we take power away from them is by not using their services and not relying on the government. So it's the death of 1,000 cuts. Every time we can save a couple of bucks in taxes, that hurts the government. And if we can all save a couple of bucks in taxes, eventually they will collapse from within, and we grow stronger. So I hate the government with a passion. That's why I want this to work, and that's why I'm doing all the work I can for you guys. But don't think it's just a matter of, oh, well, we'll meet at the pub and we'll talk about it. And no, you need fundraising, crowdfunding, maybe angel investors, maybe bank loans. Certainly explore government grants. Just add the word green to your business proposal. Okay, tell them that you're saving the climate somewhere in the garden.
Right now, we're battling online disinformation. Stefan, did you know that? That's what we're doing right now. That's So yeah, put the label on there. See if you. So I think that what's counterintuitive about the brilliance of your solution is, you're saying to get away from government, you have to steer into government to get started so you can steer away. You got to go get some paperwork so you can collect. If you did a fundraiser, you would need a bank account. Banks have to have certain things, so that you need an EIN, right?
That's right.
But if government should fail, fall away, crumble under its own weight, your society still exists. You've already got all your infrastructure set up, and now you're not connected to that which doesn't exist anymore, but you have the parallel track that you would need for surviving. Yes. So I know a lot of people, like if Michael Badnarik was here, would be like, don't get the government involved in anything you're doing. It's like, well, it's also hard to do business with those people. I have had some other clients who are very adamant about not dealing with business, like the government, And it's like, well, everyone on our side, we do pay taxes and we do use banks and stuff like that. And that's how we're helping all these people in the liberty and freedom community. So we have to balance it. We can't be zealots on either way, because it's like, what is the right thing to do right now that doesn't take away people's freedom? We do have a couple options, and let's explore that. Now, when I first encountered this idea for the second book, first off, I want to compliment you on your first book, and I want to put it back on screen here. Well, not your first book, but the book of which I found to be useful, and I have 3 copies. Master's Guide to the Way of the Warrior.
Oh, thank you, Richard.
You cover so many facets of like rites of passage for adult people, and it's like all compressed here in a book. So this is more like for individuals, whereas your new book is addressing individuals who want to work together volitionally to build community and mutual aid structures, and they're kind of like they go together, right?
Right.
So do people have to read this first one to understand your new one? And
no,
of course not. Right. Okay, good.
No. Well, here's my philosophy or my motivation. The book before The Way of the Warrior is The Art of Urban Survival, because I've seen this coming.
Joshua's read that one. I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah. And it's basically a Boy Scout manual for adults to survive what's coming. It's not heavy. No, it's not too philosophical or anything like that. Here's what happens when a society collapses. First, you see a vast increase in psychopaths. I don't know why. Either the psychopaths caused the destruction of society, or a society as it falls apart breeds more psychopaths. I don't know, chicken or the egg, but you're going to see a lot more psychopaths. And that is the first chapter in the book, The Art of Urban Survival. Defense against the psychopaths. You got to recognize these people. You got to understand them, because we are ruled by psychopaths. You know that. Everybody that's been awake for the last 10 years knows that. All these sons of bitches. I think
that's where I first encountered your work, was on sociopathy and psychopathy. And it was, probably 10 years ago. And then you were in the tragedy and hope community, and
That's right,
it's been a long time building this.
Yeah, long time building that. And well, why? Because I taught martial arts for a long time, and then so we get people in on self-defense, ladies self-defense course. Okay, great. So if he tries to rape you, you stick your thumbs in his eyes, and I taught all that stuff. But as a strategist, my very first book is The 36 Strategies of Ancient China. As a strategist, I follow Sun Tzu's advice in that you defeat your enemy without engaging in battle. That's the highest form, right? So, and another thing that he said, and again, why I'm going back to government funding and that is, you forage on your enemy. So if the government has grant money, for me to take that grant money, and if I have to form a community that says Auntie May's Knitting Society, and lo and behold, there's $50,000 for knitting societies, I'll take your fucking money. Excuse my language, okay? And then Aunt May's Knitting Society is going to use that money to buy guns and ammo and food and doctors, okay? We're not going to do any goddamn knitting. We have to, fight fire with fire. What do you think? All these government agencies, they get all these government grants. Oh, we're going to prevent child abuse. Oh, yeah. How did that work out? How well has that been going? They don't do anything. For Christ's sakes, they just take the money and they spend it on what they want. We can do the same thing. But going back, defeat your enemy without engaging in battle. But you have to, the first thing Sun Tzu writes in his book, The Art of War, is know yourself and know your enemy. And for me to teach a woman how to defend against a rapist, now, I don't know any woman personally that's been raped other than by their father or their brother or their uncle. But like a stranger, in a dark alley, jumps you, he's going to rape you. I've never met a woman that had that happen to me. Not that it doesn't, but it's just very rare. But I do know many, many women and men as well, that were sucked in by psychopaths and had their lives drained and driven to madness and suicide and alcoholism because of a psychopath's manipulation. The threat is far greater from a psychopath than a mugger. Let's learn, how to defend against a mugger. It's good to know. Good to know. But that's not the most likely source of your victimization. The most likely source is the psychopath who's your office manager. It's the psychopath who's the woman you're dating. It's the
or your politician. I thought that's where you were going to go.
Well, yeah, and the politicians. But listen, my default is that every politician is a psychopath. That's my default. You don't go into politics without being a psychopath.
It seems totally normal to represent people without knowing them, Stefan. Convince me I'm wrong.
Let me get back to you on that, Richard. And listen, there might be some good people that try to get into politics. I know.
But they get pushed out or eaten up or hung out the drive real quick, right. Man. That's the whole thing.
That's
it's just
right.
Like there are some good cops, but those good cops get turned and burned and forced into early retirement or never promoted, or they have accidents. Look at what they did to Serpico.
Yeah.
And then they made a movie about it to be like, this is what we do to people. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that movie was a warning to all the other cops.
That was
they shot him in the face.
Like 1979 when that movie was.
It was like
produced?
76. Al Pacino.
76.
Yeah, Frank Serpico was
certainly.
Like an honest NYPD cop at the time when they start bringing in a lot of drugs. That was French Connection days, but then in the 80s they went way over the top.
Went over the top.
And the documentary is the 7-5 about the 75th precinct. That's a film by Tiller Russell. That's actually a decent documentary. He's done some other work I find questionable, but yeah, Stefan. So continue, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we start off with psychopaths, and then what's the next thing that happens? Well, the book is divided into 3 major chapters. Chapter one is crime. You're going to see an increase in crime. This always happens as the society goes down. And wow, look at the statistics coming out now for the last year. Murder is up, rape is up, robbery is up. So you need to be street smart. This is what I was trying to teach my students in the self-defense class, but I'm teaching them physical stuff. But the more important stuff is to be street smart, how to smell when you're being set up, how to walk through a dangerous neighborhood, what to do if you're being followed, what to do if you get into a taxi. There's all kinds of, what to do if the police pull you over. Don't think that, that they're not psychopaths either. You got to be careful around the police. And especially with all, alleged police shootings of blacks. Look, read my book, every black person out there. You get pulled over by the cops, you put your hands on the steering wheel, you turn on the dome lights, and you roll down the window, because cops are paranoid. If your hands aren't visible, yes, they might shoot you by accident. Too bad for you. Put the goddamn hands on the... Anyways, all of that's under the chapter of... crime. Second chapter is natural disasters. Now, again, for some reason, when societies collapse, there's an increase in natural disasters. It's partly due because a corrupt government will allow the infrastructure to crumble. So when there is a flood, the flood is far more terrible. Take Katrina, for example. You saw the dikes, the levees there, it was like a 6-inch thick concrete wall that fell over. I mean, with the money they spend for that, they could have done a better job of protecting that city, but they don't. So they get a hurricane, and now the whole city's, wiped out, and chaos and anarchy. This happens a lot. So the middle chapter is natural disasters, floods, hurricanes, how to get a bug-out bag, how to store food in your house, what kind of equipment you need, radios, guns, medical kits. I tell you how to put together a good medical kit.
And this is your Art of Urban Survival book, the earlier book, right? Yeah.
And again, it's written for like beginners. I mean, it's not for hardcore survivalists. They would know that already.
It's the handbook for anyone who doesn't have a handbook already on these types of things. That's the important thing. You don't have to be the best in the world at these micro things. You just have to be the one that points out the meta view that you should be covering your bases as a mature adult and having some knowledge, working knowledge. Yeah. Maybe even some of the harder to find things, you might want to acquire those before they don't make these things anymore. Yeah. And then let's compare and contrast that now to your book on building communities and the course that goes with that.
Right. So the book, The Art of Urban Survival, is meant to teach you all the skills to survive, disasters, crime, the collapse of civilization, basically. Then I realized, or I was made aware of, um, people don't have the balls to pull it off. they, they don't, especially the men these days. They don't, we have been castrated and marginalized. There is definitely a war on men. And so, in order to effect the strategies of my book, The Art of Urban Survival, guys, you need to have some cojones. And they don't have it. And they don't have the confidence and the courage anymore. So, The Way of the Warrior, actually, I got a book deal with 20 years ago for that book. What was the name of it? It was a really good publisher. They offered me a deal on that. And the book deal fell through. I had a New York literary agent representing me, but I didn't know he was like 89 years old, and he got senile, and he got into an argument with the publisher about the foreign language rights, and the book deal fell through. So then I left that book for 20 years. I didn't do anything with it. But I thought now's the time for it. Okay, we need to turn men back into men. We need to give them some ideas and some skills, so that now they would have the courage and now the knowledge from the Art of Urban Survival, and the courage and the confidence from this book. All of that will come together, and now we can form communities. We need leaders to form communities, and people that have leadership skills. And that's why we get to the current book. So it's like a progression, if you understand where I'm going, And a further progression is the online course. Now, here's, when I was first approached by Joshua, I was skeptical about doing the online course for this community book. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what the purpose of that would be. People should buy the book. But like you said, people aren't going to read the book, but they will listen to the course. But now I realize that the course itself is the venue for creating communities. It's the way into it. You see, if I tell people, no, the solution is you got to form a community. Okay, so what do we do? Well, you call some people and you have a meeting. And, well, who to call? I don't know anybody. And where do we have the meeting? And I don't know what to talk about. And where do we begin? And yeah, I agree. The average person cannot rally 20 people together and guide them through the process of forming a community. They can't. They don't have the skills. They don't have the knowledge. It's not taught in college. It's not taught in high school. So now that I've thought about it more, the online course is actually the perfect venue. So here's what you do. First of all, you start your first buying group. You and 3 other guys, ladies, people, families, you kick in, you buy the course. Now you watch it together, right? 1 hour at a time, 1 lesson at a time. Then after the first lesson, you pause it and you discuss it amongst each other. So you don't have to think about, how am I going to start this? No, all you have to do is say, come over to my house. We're going to take this course together. And then lesson by lesson, you pause it. For example, the first lesson is on, the theory of historical cycles and the coming collapse of civilization. Okay, great. Pause it there and talk to each other. Do you think Stefan's an idiot? Do you think he's a paranoid conspiracy theorist? Do you think we're really going to go into a social collapse? What do you guys think about that? Well, I'm pretty sure that most people are going to come to the conclusion that things aren't getting better. So we do need to do something to protect our butts, cover our asses, just in case Stefan's right. Just in case. What can it hurt, right? So we form a food co-op. What can that hurt? But if Stefan's right, that food co-op will save our lives. If he's wrong, well, we got some cheap food.
And you could be charitable and give it away. You can rotate your inventory every 5 years or something, even though it might be good for 25 years, and give it away to other people that might need it because you want to freshen your stock, but it's still good for another 15 years.
Yeah, traditionally,
donate it to a food bank or a homeless shelter. We don't have a problem with homeless people? Of course we do. Donate it to them if you don't want to use it, Second chapter is the need to, again, like I said, those old friendly societies kind of used um, Masonic kind of a template. They had a motto and they had a logo and they had imagery and they had mythology. Um, but anybody that's familiar with Joseph Campbell and the importance of archetypes and the lessons that it will teach, you need to kind of put that in part of your community, because it helps to form bonds and it helps to focus your mind and your energies in a certain direction. And I'll give you one of my favorite mutual aid societies, and it's still in existence now, but it started back in medieval times, and they were called the Foresters. And the mythology of the Foresters was Robin Hood. I love Robin Hood because Robin Hood, he stole from the rich to give to the poor. No, he didn't steal from the rich. He stole from the tax man. He stole from the tax collectors. The sheriff of Nottingham was a tax collector. That's who he stole from, and he gave the tax money that they stole back to the people. But I like that mythology, and what I really like about the Foresters is that in order to be admitted as a member of that society, you had to prove your prowess with fighting with staff and a sword. Now, in 1860, they got rid of that requirement, but I like that. I would bring it back because guess what? If you have a requirement whereby your potential candidates has to prove their skill with a sword and a staff, I guarantee you, you're not going to get soy boys. Which brings us again to another part of the community is being able to filter useless people out of your community. Yeah, somebody was saying, it's so hard. There's so many useless people. I said, yeah. Just consider them all useless and then search for the diamonds in the rough. Search for those people that show that they have the ability to produce, to think critically, to work together. And you approach those people. Everybody else can go somewhere else. But yeah, filtering out people is part of it. So I would, I'm including in the book, and it's in the course, have a prerequisite. If you're going to join my emergency disaster response team, everybody needs a first aid certificate. That's up to you to get it. You spend the weekend at Red Cross or St. John Ambulance here in Canada. You spend your weekend, you pay for the course, you get it, you take the course, you get your first aid certificate. If you don't have one, you can't join. It's not up to me to train you to in first aid, but it's something you would need to have if we're going to do a volunteer search and rescue or a community disaster response. So anyways, so you go through the course, second lesson, symbology, mythology, what kind of a, let's talk about that. What do you think would be a good symbol for us? Now Christian groups may want to put something like loaves and fishes or whatever like that to represent when Jesus fed the masses, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to feed the masses. So if you're a Christian group and you're forming one of these communities, then of course the cross would be part of your symbolism. It can be in your coat of arms, and you could have a fish and a loaf of bread in your coat of arms, and that will help to, solidify the purpose of your community. We are following this, the guidance of Jesus, and we're feeding the masses. And I'm just saying that as an example. Now, you can do the same thing if you're a Muslim or if you're a Jew or if you're a natural, an atheist, but still we need to, so then stop the course. Let's talk. What do you think would be a good symbolism for us? Anybody have any skills in creating a logo? Do you know anybody? Well, let's, spend $200 and hire somebody to design a logo for us, because you're going to need that, and then,
and you probably need it, whether it's a mutual aid society or a homeschooling group or any of these types of organizational structures where you're going to go and build your parallel system. You're going to need some of these things, and it gives coherence to the narrative and the ethos of it. Exactly.
The ethos of it. So then you go lesson by lesson by lesson. Next one after that is, the benefits of incorporating, unincorporating, or incorporating for profit, incorporating for nonprofit, or unincorporated association. Let's talk about that. So then after that lesson, sit down and talk. What do you guys think? Should we incorporate? Do we need a bank account for what we're going to do? Because if you need a bank account, then we have to incorporate. Because then we can buy things by using a check or a company credit card, and also that way, again, so many of these things turn out to be frauds by con artists that collect money and then steal it, right? So I include that within the community, if you have a bank account, that bank statement every month is issued to every member. Now everybody knows where the money is. Every week, every month, you get it mailed to you or emailed to you, and then you know where the money is. So, and this is to avoid fraud and those con artists that collect a lot of money, and then they keep it. They keep it going because the people don't know where the money went to.
And there can be good people who are honest and well-meaning and well-intentioned involved, and they can be blackmailed. They can be compromised. They can be hacked. There's a whole bunch of different reasons that you might want to have these transparencies, not because you don't trust the people, because it might be like family or friends or whatever.
Sure.
But you have to keep an eye on things, because when you start having assets, you start having predators. It's a rule of nature.
Yes.
If you want to exist outside the terrarium, as many people do want to exist, because the terrariums are going to go away, that's what the supply lines are going to show you.
Yeah.
People in the country won't even feel it because they're so partially self-reliant, a lot of people. But people in the urban centers, when they stop filling, they can't get coffee and food at the bodega, what's going on?
Yeah.
They're just going to find out one day that there's stuff missing and not showing up.
Yeah. And then they're going to panic and freak out,
Yeah.
So, in this way, the course is a perfect way to start your community, whatever it is you want to do. Because as you go through the course and you start talking about it, what kind of a community do we want to do? A homeschooling first, or a buying group first, or a survival community first, or what's everybody's priorities, and how should we operate it, and what kind of symbology and what kind of legal structure should we have? Now, I understand perfectly about these guys that don't want nothing to do with the government. I agree. If I wake up tomorrow and it's Mad Max, I'm with you. Screw the government. I'm not filing no papers. But it's not Mad Max yet. And until we get to Mad Max or The Road or some dystopian zombie apocalypse, we still have to survive and function under the rules that we operate on now. And so, you can't, try not paying your taxes. Try not paying your property taxes. I mean, I heard some guy said, well, we're going to buy a 100-acre farm and we're all going to live on there, and we're not going to pay taxes. I said, good luck with that. You're going to have the sheriffs and the FBI and military helicopters on your ass so fast, and you're going to be off of that goddamn property, and every penny you ever spent is gone, and everything you tried to do is going to be over. So go ahead. Good luck not paying your property taxes. Meantime, what we need to understand is that, maybe we need to incorporate it as a religion, and then we don't have to pay property taxes. We have to, feed off our enemy. We have to forage off the enemy, adapt to them. But just having these ideas, well, we're not going to cooperate, we're not going to file nothing. Okay, don't file anything. Maybe you'll get away with it for 6 months or so. And if you
have to use the enemy's resources in this case, because it's like, look at what we have to. We're using technology that they make. If we want to get to the point where we make our own open source, freedom-based technology, you're going to need some of these mutual aid societies to be the investors, because these other people with money, they ain't investing in freedom.
Yep.
Just like they're not investigating the pedophiles. They're like, no, let's keep bringing them closer, keep bringing them closer. We're going to normalize it. It's like, no, you're not. You're not. But people haven't organized to push back effectively yet, or to abandon ship and not put their kids in the places that are filling their heads with such nonsense.
Yeah.
You also don't want to stand out too much, right? Don't tallest Swede is the first one to get knocked down first, chopped down first. So, I mean, if you sort of put yourself as being an outlier, as being like, and creating a logo and giving yourself a name and sort of a meaning behind it, that can be quite dangerous, because then it gives the government a very easy target. But if you can operate not in their system, but sort of like working within their system, working alongside of it, I guess.
You use their system to bootstrap and then get out.
Exactly. Bootstrap it. Use them for what they're useful for. Like, for example, I hate YouTube. I hate the censorship. I have not had one strike on my YouTube channel. Not one. Almost all my videos are monetized. But why? Because I understand the algorithm, and I understand what the algorithm cannot click on, cannot hit on. Metaphor, analogy,
sarcasm,
yeah, humor. The algorithm doesn't hit on that. So if I were to go out and say, "Oh, COVID is a bunch of bullshit," and all this, I never say that. What I say is, I have some code words. One of the code words is cooties, and the other code word is Kool-Aid. Now, we all know everybody's getting the cooties, and they're forcing us to take the Kool-Aid. I do all my videos using those code words. I've never been hit on by the algorithm for that. If I were to say COVID and the vaccine and all that,
you'd get flagged.
I'd be flagged. I'd be demonetized. I'd be booted off of YouTube. Well, why am I still on YouTube? Because I've been on every other alternative channel. Okay, I've uploaded all my videos on BitChute and Minds and all this other crap. And I go back there 6 months later and I look at the view counts. 36, 48, maybe 105.
Yeah.
Whereas on YouTube, I consistently get 1,500. And then sometimes some of them go viral. I got 30,000, 50,000. My Defense Against a Psychopath is well over, well, because it's been replicated, people ask, can I upload it to my, yeah, it's yours, take it, it's free, whatever, I don't mind. So if I add them all up, all the people that have put that video on their channel, almost 1 million views, right? So I'm still using YouTube. I hate YouTube. They're bastards, but I need to use them. I can't get to people through BitChute. You know, everything I do is on BitChute, trust me. And I look, I can check right now what was my last video, 46 people. You know, and I know I got to go on BitChute and work it and like people and invite friends and all this. Do I have time for that? I'm trying to save the world here. I got books to write, courses to design, you know, interviews to conduct. I don't have time to piddle around with this, you know, trying to improve my social media standing, you know, piss off. So
I agree.
You know, so that's why, but this is what I'm saying. Right now, we still operate in this world under these, you know, this structure. Let's take advantage of that structure.
Yeah.
Government grants? Yeah, look, I've gotten quite a few government grants in my day. You know, you have to know how to write a proposal. Oh my God. It's a bitch. Trust me, I hate those things. Yeah. Usually you got to get together with 2 or 3 people and you got to write it together and compile it and all that. But if
or bring a grant writer into your group, just like you bring a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, and the other things you need outside of their society.
That's where I was just going to go with that, Richard. You're anticipating my every move. Yeah, hire a grant writer, right? But oh well, it will cost us $1,500. Yeah, but you're writing a grant for $200,000. If you get it, you know that's $200,000. You can do a lot of damage with that. So yeah, get the grant writer. You know, pay some money. But everybody's like, well, you know, this should all be for free. They say that to me all the time. How dare you sell these books? You should give them for free. Like I'm a big capitalist because I'm charging you $25 for a book.
Well, because you know, Stefan, it doesn't cost you anything to print the book. It didn't cost you anything to get a computer or paper or ink or to do the research or to buy the other books that you use to learn or to travel and get the experience. Like all that stuff's free. Everything's free here, right? I mean, technically, the government's just printing it out of thin air anyway. Why are we even keeping track of it? How about we just run things like this, but we get a lot more ethics and integrity involved? We might have a working model. But the way they're doing it, they're driving toward the cliff like Thelma and Louise, and we got to like roll off the back of the car real quick. And you're talking about how to prepare for rolling off the moving car. That's how you do your urban survival and build communities. You got to start thinking about it now and how you're going to brace for that landing.
Yeah.
And utilize the resources the government has, right? Going for grants is brilliant. Human beings respond to incentives. Economics transcends politics in this regard. And if you have the opportunity to get, well, what is being devalued currency, to actually build up real assets, real value in a community, that's a no-brainer. You're actually like reversing the model they're doing. So.
Yeah, it's better than investing in 401k and Wall Street. Invest in other human beings for survival these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, people are like, oh, they're so upset. Oh, well, do I have to pay $100? I don't know. But, like I said, a hot dog cart is $50,000. Okay.
Yeah. Is your survival more or less important than the hot dog shop entrepreneur model?
Yeah. Is your life, is your society, is your children's future not worth as much effort as running a hot dog stand? Well, good luck with that. So, yeah, again, if it's Mad Max, all right, there's no government grants, there's no banks, but the book and the course is actually aimed at surviving Mad Max. Because once you have this community together, right, it's very easy to morph them. All we need to do is add security, and that's in the book, right? And communications, that's in the book. And now you've got it. So you
got civil defense.
Civil defense. So you got your own parallel medical association. You have your own source for food, either by growing it or outsourcing or hunting or, raising chickens in the backyard, like Tim Pool was talking about. You have your own medical community. I just mentioned that. You have your own lending society. You can pool your money. You can, that's what the Chinese do. That's what the Mexicans do. They come here and they go, whoa, how could these Chinese afford to buy a convenience store? They're immigrants. Well, because they have a lending society. They work together. They all pool their money. They buy the convenience store. They all take turns running a shift at the convenience store. They all get their groceries at wholesale cost because the convenience store has a wholesaler's license. So, I mean, that's how they did it. Here we are all, cutting each other's throat for a buck because we won't work together. So we have all these potential structures in place. Now it goes Mad Max. You're fine. Because you're already doing that. You're already sourcing your food. You're already, working on communications. You're already cooperating. You already got your civil defense team. You already got your medical team. You already got your shelter and your nutrition teams, and
you're smoothing it. And if it just goes hyperinflation, you're thriving.
You're thriving. You're still okay. So, but we got to start somewhere. And so, like in the book and in the course, start off simple, something as simple as a check-in club, or a...
That's where people check in with each other to see how they're doing, because, COVID could hit somebody and a couple of days later they got, their fog in the brain and they forget to call the doctor, these sort of things, It's not a bad idea. And there's other things besides COVID, just people getting on in years. You want to check in with people and these sort of things. Human contact's also good for the immune system, whether it's just talking on the phone or being there in person. So these are good too. A lot of people don't think about that type of society.
Yeah, well, Joshua told me that after listening to me talk about the check-in club, he was thinking, well, I haven't spoken to my mother in about 3 weeks, so he decided to call her. It turned out she got sick and was, suffering some kind of a dementia. She was wandering around the house all alone. Nobody had checked in on her. She didn't know where she was. Thank God Joshua called her and said, Mom, what's going on? I don't know. And he had his sister go over there, and I think that was his sister or somebody. Anyways, very likely saved his mother's life just by, don't wait a month to get into contact with people. At least call them once a week. Things are changing so rapidly, especially with elderly people and the threat of, this kind of... Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. So we can do this.
So I remember asking you about how you're going to finish your book, and when I talked to you about maybe doing a course, I said, because if you taught a course, it would be easy to finish your book because it would force you into a routine of presenting and organizing your information, these sort of things. But you were a little bit skeptical, and rightfully so. So you went and checked with some other people, see what my reputation was.
Oh, yeah.
What'd you find? What'd you find out? What'd you discover from asking the questions?
Aside from the 6 wives you don't mention,
we're Mormons. Don't mock it. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, I checked you out, Richard. Well, because listen, that I tell everybody to do that. You have to check people out. You got to, dig a little bit deeply into them. What the hell? You're trusting these people with your lives, especially if we're forming communities, right? And what, you just going to take everybody on face value? That makes you a fool. Don't take people on face value. For me, I always find that talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. I want to know what a person does. I am so sick of everybody's goddamn opinion and them talking and talking. Oh, wow, they talk a pretty good game. Wow, it's like this guy. I remember we used to have weekend sparring sessions up at my buddy's house, and we had this guy come in, and he's like the guy was like 200 pounds. He was about 50 pounds overweight. Anyways, comes in and meets us for the first time. Goes, well, I'm a black belt in karate, and I studied ninjutsu. And you see that light up there? Yeah, I could kick that. I could kick that light, just like Bruce Lee did in the Green Hornet. I said, well, okay, that sounds really good. Well, let's go out in the backyard and we'll do some sparring then. And so the guy was facing off in front of me, and he goes to do a front snap kick, right? And just, kicking from the back leg. But he never sparred on grass before. That's why I always tell people, know your terrain.
Sweep the leg. Slippery. Grass is
slippery.
Yeah.
So his leg went up, and he slipped. He went up in the air and landed flat on his back. Boom. Oh, my back. Oh, my back. Oh, my back. And anyways, that was the end of him for that day. So I just stood there, and this guy just landed on his ass all by himself, right? But that's the difference between yippity yip. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. Okay, well, show me a kick there. Whoop! Oh, my back. The guy couldn't even kick, for Christ's sakes, without seriously injuring himself. So I'm like that with a lot of people. Oh, I'm this, I'm that, and the other. No. Let me see what you do. So, but yes, Richard, I did check you out. I talked to everybody I could find that knew you, tangentially or whatever, and everybody says you're golden. Golden. So I went, really? He's golden?
Did you talk to my wife? What'd she say? No.
She says she wants it more often and that you're too tired. But anyways.
No, she didn't.
I'm just teasing. No, I didn't talk to your wife. I didn't know you were married. But, the people that you've dealt with and through tragedy and hope. But we knew each other through tragedy and hope anyways because of the articles I submitted to you guys 10 years ago about the psychopaths. I think we exchanged some emails and stuff like that as well,
Yeah, but we didn't get a chance to work together in person or to help you out with your business problems of, bringing this freedom-giving information to the market soon enough that we're not sharing it in the gulag.
No, that's, you don't have the time. I don't have the time to know everybody and everything, right? So that's not a problem. I'm not worried about that. But no, it's worked out very good. I think the course really is the only way to go right now. Unless somebody had, okay, when the book comes out, hopefully the end of next week, when the book comes out, you can buy the book and read it, and then maybe you can run this. Somebody that's really, got a pretty good IQ, has leadership qualities, and say, okay, I read the book. I now know what to do. I'm going to go out, and I'm going to get these people. I'm going to organize them. Good. Go for it.
For everyone else, you need the course.
Everyone else is going to need the course. Yeah. Because it's done for you. Right? All you have to do is watch it. And then talk about it afterwards. Whatever you like to say.
Now, I got a question for Control Room. We got 20 people in the Control Room just observing the show kind of behind the glass. Was anyone in Stefan's beta version of the class that wants to speak up? He can get a testimonial right now, maybe. Let's see. I could also get into trouble doing that because the people who might need to talk, they're not participants, they're attendees.
They're attendees, yeah. But they can use
I'm not
Joshua.
Hands come up, but I've been able to take Stefan's work and put it into action in my local area. We've been doing viewings of the course, just like what Stefan was describing of how all you need to do is get people together to watch it. And that starts the bonding of the group in itself. And so we've done 3 weeks, 3 viewings of his course. I had 30 people show up the first time, 25 people show up the second time, and then I think we're down to like 15 last week. But that's like getting down to my 8-person group, like who's got the wherewithal to see this through, because I want them on my team. Tomorrow is going to be our next night, but I'm structuring it so once a night is just a casual potluck. Just everybody get together and just hang out. No viewing of or agenda. One thing I'm putting into action, Stefan, is we're going to be doing potluck, and we're going to be doing a vote for your favorite dish, right?
Oh.
I really like that idea of yours because it creates a little bit of tension, some nervousness, and then like a winner, right? And that whole bonding experience creates a better community out of it. So tomorrow we're going to be doing the first, the first contest. But this has been hands down just great, greatly received. I've had several people couldn't make it that the Monday night that we're doing it, and so they bought the course themselves. They're doing it online with their core group. So this is really just working out beautifully, and I hope to share this cookie cutter process now that once we get through the whole course.
Yeah, you got a case study.
Yeah, so now we have a case study. So you just do this, find your people, get them together, watch it, and put it into action.
Some people have an excuse they don't have a place to have it. What did you do? Didn't you rent a place or make an offer to barter, or how did that work out?
I luckily just weeks before was asked to DJ. I live out in the country, but just 5 minutes up the road, I got asked to DJ on a property. It was beautiful, and they had this like 2,000 square foot building in their backyard, and it had power, and they had a projector, and so I'm like trading DJing for use of their space. I pitched them on the whole mutual aid idea. They flat out loved it. They want to be like part of it, and so now we have like our lodge.
Nice. Now, so that's good feedback that someone was able to take your course stuff and then go out and apply what you're teaching, and it's pretty easy. The potluck dinner is like, that's a brilliant idea because it's like free food, it's good food. People are going to bring their best dish, not the easiest dish in that type of situation. And it does help people get to know one another and break the ice. And eating is such a common thing, So thank you, Joshua, for making that addition. And in addition to just being DJ Trua on the weekends occasionally, Joshua is also Stefan's account manager, and helps to make sure all the things that Stefan needs for his infrastructure and marketing and all these other things gets done with his team. So I also wanted to say,
Joshua has been doing a great job on the course and on keeping me informed on how things are going. And the potluck dinner is just one of a few things that I mentioned. It's in the book as well. We have to create our own rituals, right? So let's have a potluck dinner once a month. Or let's have music night or story night, and we vote on who had the funniest story or the scariest story if it's Halloween, or the most interesting story. These are little sort of rituals that we need to recreate for ourselves as well.
So you're saying we need to put more effort into life instead of putting effort into watching other people live life on screens?
Yes.
Profound.
And by the way, my pasta salad wins every potluck dinner, hands down.
Oh, that's a challenge he's throwing down now. We'll see when you come to the U.S. how that pasta salad is.
Oh, yeah.
Where can people get your book next week, and where can people check out your course with their friends?
I got a new website. It's called formingcommunities.com. One word, formingcommunities.com. I'm still working on the website. I'm updating it every day. I do everything myself. I write the books. I design the websites. I do the videos. I do the talks. I format the books. I do the marketing. It'd be nice to have some help. But Joshua's been a help, and so have you, Richard.
Well, I appreciate that compliment coming from you. It means a lot. There's the book on screen. Well, that's actually the course. The Complete Guide to Forming Communities with Stefan Verstappen. Stefan, thank you for stopping by, for making this part of your schedule, for sharing this wisdom, this cornucopia of knowledge with the audience. Because I think, like, not everyone's going to hear this and take action, but a few people just started taking action, and it might be to take that next step to find 3 or 5 friends, take this course, start learning about what they could learn and implement pretty readily. Like in the next 6 months, you can get a lot of these things knocked out.
Oh, yeah.
Have
easy.
a real plan for the future. Have real peace of mind, knowing that you're not waiting and hoping. You're not smoking the hopium. You're actually getting out there doing the real, meaningful, substantial things that are going to guarantee your family's future, or at least make it a lot less risky than everyone else is doing right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's the path to survival. And Stefan, thank you for helping us illuminate and shine bright lights on that path and mark it out and demarcate it for people coming behind us.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard, for having me on and for convincing me to do the course. Much appreciated.
I'll take that phrasing. I don't like to convince people, but in your case, I diagnosed before I did the examination just because I saw your problem. And I was like, I see this all the time. No one's going to read your book, but if they take your course, they'll all read your book and they'll actually do something with it. And it just took you had to go out and do your due diligence and come to your own conclusion. So I don't feel I convinced you. I gave you a sturdy opportunity several times to make a healthy decision.
Yes, you did. I know. And I blew you off a couple of times, more or less. He's like, well, not you. I blew Joshua off. Yeah, I'll get back
but
to
the
you,
value, we knew, Joshua and I were like chuckling some of your responses, because I'm like, he'll get it. He just needs to hang in there and keep checking out what we're doing. And once you vet it and see the examples, you're going to, and you did, and you moved forward. Yep. And I think it's going to be beautiful getting the book in people's hands and getting that course into people's lives. And it's a service to humanity. And I know struggle for a long time to bring these types of ideas to the public. So thank you, Stefan, for your investment from your end. And I hope I'm going to wish you a good white pill Christmas of optimism and, winter tidings of a, full belly.
Thanks, guys. You have a good night. I'm going to sign out. Bye-bye, guys. Bye.
Hey, take care, Stefan. Have a good night.
Thanks,
What'd you think of that, Tony?
Fantastic. It's interesting, one of the sort of apprehensions he had, and someone I'm actually working in the background with, an old Tragedy and Hope member, discussing with them, who runs permaculture courses, like, have you thought about taking your knowledge and putting it into a digital format?
Did we lose your camera?
Let me lose my camera. Co-host asked you to start the video.
There you go.
There we go. But
so
another
coursify something, or just to encapsulate it as a digital asset in some format. Right?
Exactly.
Pervade one to many.
Grand Theft, one to many. There you go. Grand Theft World is the idea behind it is just to be a time capsule, but so many of us have skills and different talents and expertise and specializations in so many different areas, and we're just going to keep that to ourselves and not try to preserve that in some format that will be useful for the future. I'm not saying it's selfish necessarily. I just don't think people are aware, especially for older generations that aren't aware of just how advanced information technology has become in today's day and age, especially with the cloud computing technology. It's a completely different world. So to preserve your knowledge in a digital format that can also potentially be used to generate revenue for you, especially as you're older, and can just little extra passive revenue coming in, some beer money, whatever you want to call it, not a bad thing. So it's a win-win-win-win-win. The community wins, you win, your family wins, you get some money out of it, and you get to preserve it in a digital format, which is much, once you get through the initial hurdle of building the foundation and then building out the course, the rest of it's pretty much preserves itself. It doesn't require tons of initial capital investment afterwards.
Preserving and passing on the best parts of our culture.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the concept. I mean, right now in everyone's families, there's people we know and love that make great food, and we haven't learned how to make it. And when they pass away, we're going to have a recipe, but it's not going to be the same unless we watch them and learn, oh, they do it like this, And those are experience, or just mechanical things, working on car, father, son, grandfather, get a couple generations doing these sort of things.
Honestly, the way we
hands-on
pretty much learned was always hands-on. It was like, sort of a guild system. And, in the past, you had the feudal system, but it was very much trade-based. You worked with a certain type of individuals from an early age that taught you a certain type of trade or skill that was usually hyper-specialized in that regard. But you also, if you were lucky enough, could be educated in the liberal arts and how the mind thinks and how to learn anything and things of that nature. But
there's some people watching right now and they're like, what is hands-on learning? Because they only know book learning, right? So hands-on learning would be, you could hand me a mechanical device and I can intuit its form, function, purpose, how to use it from looking at it.
Take it apart, maybe put it back together, sort of thing.
You know, what's the ergonomics? Where are the buttons? What do the buttons might do? Does it plug in? Like all these things, you can question it. You can interrogate that object, and then you can take it apart too. Like as you're pointing out, right? You can put it back together, and then even if you don't understand everything in it, you can be a competent user of that and make a lifestyle living using that tool.
It's the best way because you're actually engaging in multiple forms of learning. You're trying to name some of the components that you're taking apart, so you're actually learning some of the base concepts and some of the ideas and terms that are used in that.
Right, so the metaphysics will be that which exists, the tool. Then the epistemology is the words we attach to the various areas to get law of identification going, and with that we can find contradictions, and then we build form and have an understanding.
Yeah, you get an understanding.
Crazy.
It's unbelievable.
If only we could pass this shit out right here that we're talking about. How do we do that? Can we mandate that? Can we mandate some smartness out there? No.
It's not ironically trying even to mandate the best things in human beings only creates greater perversions.
So. Well, Tony, I know we didn't talk about before the show that we had a guest on tonight like that. So you rolled with it pretty well. And I planned on giving Stefan an hour on stage, but he's got so much wisdom. It's like, all we're going to do is play some clips from the news for the rest of the week. So I'm like, he's sitting here spitting his wisdom. I'm just going to let it go. Let it go, let it flow, and tell you where to, go.
And he's a very gentle, very nice man. He reminds me a bit of Gino Denning. He's just very wise. He's really internalized a lot of his experiences in life. And I have tremendous respect for individuals that have been able to do that and gain an insight that is useful and be able to share that with other people. So I really appreciate him coming on. And, there are so many times I wanted to jump in there and ask questions and sort of start going on my random diatribes, but I held back because I just wanted to hear him.
You did a good job
tell
listening.
A story because I can sometimes not shut up.
I thought I was doing a good job being a teacher of listening skills. I'm like, look, I said 2 things in the half hour. That was it. I just, he's just spouting forth wisdom. That's what you want as an interviewer. Ask a question and the person talks for an hour. That would be a David Icke interview. Hi, David. How you doing today? And an hour goes by. Like, he'll just go, right? He's on his own. He's like, I don't need you to ask me questions. I know what I want to talk to the audience about, right?
Right.
So, yeah, that was...
something there, Rich, I want the rest of the audience to take away from it is, what's the book that Jordan Peterson wrote, 12 Rules for Life or whatever it is? One of his biggest rules, one of his most important, where they clean your room.
Clean your room.
Listen, he has a whole rule for just listening to people. Are you actually listening? Are you actually listening? And that's a skill that very few people have actually developed well, especially having gone through the 15,000 hours of state-sponsored indoctrination that only completely cuts that off and wanting to believe there's any necessity in listening. But listening is its own skill.
Active listening is like I'm recording and then I'm studying the recording as it's going on. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah, that's good. It's like a dialogue.
If you want my clear and present attention, you can get it. But I got stuff to do, so it better be important.
All said.